I'm very excited to have the opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker, Kathy Davis. Kathy Davis is the Business Relations Administrator for Florida Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. She directs the business engagement through the development and coordination of partnerships with employers, industry associations, community organizations, government, economic development, and the Florida public workforce system. She oversees the delivery of services that address employers' needs and create career opportunities for VR job seekers. She has more than 15 years of experience providing services for individuals with disabilities and has a passion for assisting people to transform their lives through education and work. She graduated with honors from the University of Texas, El Paso, with a master's in economics, and from the Illinois Institute of Technology with a master's in rehabilitation counseling. She is pursuing a doctorate degree at the University of Florida, where she was accepted into the 2020 lead cohort of the Higher Education Administration program. Ms. Davis has substantial experience with strategic planning, program design and evaluation, change management, and project implementation. Prior to coming to Florida VR, Ms. Davis was the employment specialist for the North Carolina Division of Services for the Blind from 2012 to 2014. She has broad responsibilities in business engagement, training of staff and industry partners, research and knowledge translation, legislative and regulatory tracking, and social security reimbursement. Ms. Davis's work on the special projects includes Department of Labor Apprenticeship USA State Expansion Grant 2017 to 2018, Florida Sector Strategies 2017, US DOLETA Integrated Business Services Cohort in 2018. So without further ado, I will hand it over to you, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you so much for the Centers for Inclusive Communities for having me here today. Thank you to everyone who's joining. I hope you have lots of questions for me, and I'm very excited to share my passion and knowledge for connecting education and careers for individuals with disabilities. So we can go ahead to the next slide. There's my contact information for you. We'll make sure at the end of the conference that you have access to these slides as well as the contact information. And some objectives for today. I'd really like to be able to help you understand what's going on in the economy post the height of COVID-19. I want to tell you about workforce trends and the careers available to all individuals who are working. And I'm going to share with you some federal and state initiatives that are influencing workforce right now. I'm going to share with you some information about attitudinal barriers if we have time at the end of the presentation. I'm going to do an experiential exercise that will help us really reflect on attitudes that can prevent individuals with disabilities from reaching their full career potentials. And then we're going to explore some career planning best practices and resources for youth and adults. And ultimately, I hope that I provide you with the information that you need to feel empowered to advocate for individuals with disabilities. Next slide. There we go. We're just going to use the chat. If you could drop in the chat, kind of your primary reason for attending today. I think many of us have multiple roles being here, but just the primary reason that you're here today. If you're an individual with a disability, a customer, or are you a parent or advocate for someone with a disability, or a professional? Just to get a sense of who our audience is here, and that may help me expound on different things. Hi, Jamie. I see professional. Professional and individual. Professional and parent. I think many of us are in the roles that we're in because we are personally involved in the lives of someone who has a disability. That I'm included in that as well. professional with art. More professionals. Good morning to everyone. Okay, it looks like many of them are professionals. Hey, Mike. Mike's on my team. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Most of you appear to be here for professional reasons. I think that's very helpful as I talk about the information. I can probably know some of the things that you're connected to versus the things that maybe you aren't, and it can help me go in depth in some areas more than others, perhaps. And again, I do appreciate every person who's here and for the different roles that you're here for. As I said, I am here, I have dual roles. I do have a son with a significant mental health disability that substantially has affected his employment. So I also am very personally invested in everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Okay, next slide. What is inclusion? Okay, now it's my turn to drop something in the chat box. And let's see if this works. I'm not 100% sure. If you click that, I will get a word cloud, and what I'm not sure of is if we will share it, if I'll be able to see it, to share with you guys. But what I would like from you is 3 things that you see are inclusion. What do you think defines inclusion, or what does inclusion actually mean? And I'm going to take the poll as well with you. Everyone has a voice. Okay, very good. Yeah, feel free to share in the chat box. I'll pull that. I'll be able to pull that picture up actually in just a minute. So if you want to share in the chat box, that's great. And I'm just going to read some of the words for you. Access, freedom, opportunity, self-sufficiency, adapting, belonging. That is a new word that is really being used a lot. I hear that in a lot of the literature, belonging. Belonging and access, because we also know that equal opportunity is not the same as inclusion. Diversity is not the same as inclusion. Loved, someone matters. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, what we have here is a slide, and I'm going to describe any pictures in the slide. We have a young woman who is in one of our work-based learning programs. She is in an office setting. She's wearing a blue blouse and standing between a chair and a desk with her hands folded contentedly in front of her. And what I really love about this picture is the smile on her face. She is visibly happy about her opportunity to participate in work. For most people, even those who are retired, their career substantially contributes to their inclusion in society. Think about your own daily conversations. We ask our friends and family, how was work today? When you meet someone for the first time, notice that within usually the first 5 minutes of conversation, someone asks, what do you do? Or where do you work? And even for those who are retired or no longer working, people say, what did you do? Or where did you work? And we definitely ask younger people or people who aren't working, what do you want to do? So work and careers are vital to who we are and what we do. Our careers also generate a social network. I have friends from work years ago that I maintain contact with, and some of my work friends I've even shared birthdays and weddings with. Our work and careers give us purpose because they're essential to answering what we do, how we spend our time, and hopefully, and best of all, what we're passionate about. Work can put us on a path to financial freedom. You may be thinking, I work and all I have are a lot of bills and debt. Well, that may be true, but it's also a sign that your income gives you an ability to provide for yourself. It's economic self-sufficiency. Careers build confidence. Think about the first time when you got your first real job, not babysitting or lawn mowing, but those are really important developmental milestones in career development. But that first job that you had a real paycheck. If you're like me, you felt proud. You felt you had accomplished something. Lastly, work and careers advance people's independence. Federal laws and policies on employment and community living are rooted in the idea that people with disabilities have a fundamental human right to work and live in their communities with full autonomy to the same extent that people without disabilities do. Central to this idea is that people with disabilities also have a right to the supports needed to achieve their integration and independence. Next slide. If you are considering a future career or changing careers, or in the case of most of you, supporting individuals in their career development, it's critical to understand the labor market. Labor market information can be overwhelming because there is a lot to sort through. And later in the presentation, I'll tell you about some of the resources that can help you find the information that you need. But for right now, let's take a look at some of the industries experiencing the most job growth in Florida over a 12-month period, February 2021 to February of this year. Leisure and hospitality grew the most. We would expect this. Coming out of COVID, entertainment picked up, restaurants reopened, hotels are starting to fill up because of the tourism returning to Florida. All of the other industries grew between 5 and 10%. And I really want to share some of the job titles with you because they might surprise you. In the information industry, some of the top growing occupations, and I just love these, are film and video editors, audio and video technicians, special effects artists and animators, makeup artists, web and software developers, and marketing analysts. If you think about the world of information that we live in, the videos, the many marketing tools, the short stories, the short information marketing and advertising that you get when you're scrolling social media, they pop up everywhere. And there is a tremendous need for people who are creative and want to go into the arts. For professional and business services, top growing occupations are veterinary technicians and animal caretakers. We know, though, a lot of individuals, once they find out that taking care of animals isn't all fluffy puppies, it's also picking up after them, that maybe that isn't quite the career path they're interested in. But there's also legal assistants, data analysts, and human resource specialists. Next category, trade, transportation, and utilities. Here we have equipment mechanics and technicians, delivery drivers, materials movers, and wind and solar technicians. And then other services are nail technicians, hairstylists, event planners, and recreation workers. And finally, for our financial activities, we have business and security analysts and customer service demand or the demand for customer service representatives also remains really high. All right, next slide. These are some statistics, and there are quite a few numbers on this slide. I don't want to overwhelm you with them. What's really important here is what probably most of you know, that employment of people with disabilities has a long history of not being equal to the employment of people without disabilities. And since careers advance self-sufficiency and independence, an unemployment rate for people with disabilities that is more than double the unemployment rate of people without disabilities leads to significant inequities for people with disabilities. People with disabilities are employed or participating in the workforce at less than half the rate of people without disabilities. Next slide. All right, this next slide, this is sort of my economics background coming out. I like numbers and data, but this is really interesting because it tells us what happened during the pandemic. I'll try to simplify this. The blue columns represent people with disabilities, and the orange are people without disabilities. If you read across the top of the chart, it says low, medium, and high. What it means is that the level of direct contact with other people was either low, medium, or high in the job that you had. Examples of low contact jobs would be accountants, work from home customer service representatives, or software developers. High contact jobs would be something like a hairstylist or a nail technician or massage therapist. And medium contact would be retail sales or cashiers. People with disabilities actually made substantial employment gains in low contact jobs throughout the pandemic, even increasing more than people with disabilities. This was mostly a result of the number of jobs that went remote. Many of these jobs are going to remain remote, and that's a great opportunity for people with disabilities who have long advocated working from home. Next slide. All right, this slide has a picture of a worker wearing a white hard hat and yellow safety vest at a work site. His back is to us and he's holding a small drone that he appears ready to launch. There are many federal and state workforce initiatives, but 3 are really driving the workforce system right now. When I say workforce system, I'm including employers, workers, education, training, support providers, and government. The first major initiative is competitive integrative employment. The goal of this initiative is to give every person with an intellectual, developmental, or other significant disability the opportunity to work in the jobs that everyone else has an opportunity to work in, earning the same pay and working in the same integrated workplaces with coworkers. The next initiative is registered apprenticeship. The apprenticeship model is often described as earn as you learn, career preparation. It involves a combination of on-the-job training, classroom instruction, and credentialing. You might think of apprenticeship as being limited to skilled trades, and while these are options, there are apprenticeships across virtually all industries. There are over 90 apprenticeship occupations in Florida. There's childcare, cybersecurity, computer technicians, sprinkler fitters, elevator mechanics, and at least 85 others. About 1,800 Florida apprentices completed their apprenticeships last year, and they earned on average $25 per hour, which is over $52,000 a year. Apprenticeships can have some challenging entry standards, that's for sure, but they are starting to embrace competency-based assessments, and that's going to be very useful in eliminating barriers. Pre-apprenticeships are also growing in number, and those can be great bridges to apprenticeships. Most registered apprenticeships fall under EEO regulations that require them to have an aspirational goal of hiring 7% of their workforce as people with disabilities. Post-secondary credential attainment is the third major initiative. Our governor set a goal to be #1 in the nation for workforce education by 2030. And along with that goal was added the goal of having 60% of the working age Floridians to obtain a high value post-secondary credential by 2030. We're going to look a little bit more at credentials in just a few moments. And the key to individuals with disabilities being included and succeeding in these initiatives is removing barriers and providing supports unique to individual needs. All right, next slide. Future visions of work. This is probably one of my more favorite slides. We have a picture of a man wearing a virtual reality device. He's standing and his hands are extended as if he's exploring something in the air. Virtual reality has arrived and it is changing everything. There are even virtual experiences for trying out careers. I read about the Arkansas workforce centers using virtual reality cams for customers walking through the door to try out a wide variety of careers. I'm hoping and anticipating that those will be coming to schools and workforce centers in Florida soon, if they're already not here and I just haven't heard yet. There are virtual training experiences too in every field. It will probably come as no surprise that remote positions as well are in the present and here to stay. Yep, some companies are saying, no, we want you to come back to the office, but we workers have gotten a taste of remote positions, and right now it's a market that we can kind of help decide that future. So employers are having to concede and continue remote work options. Some employers have really realized the benefit of decreasing the cost of office space, so it's here to stay. Also, contracted and gig work are on the rise too. It's an affordable way for businesses to hire talent. And this generation of workers seems to like the flexibility that gig work brings. And then there's entrepreneurship or self-employment. Some areas of the state have seen an 80% increase in small business applications over the last 5+ years. And resources to help entrepreneurs are growing too. Some of Florida's public colleges and universities even have entrepreneurial centers. And so if you really want to learn a lot more about the future of work and entrepreneurship, I have 2 really good resources for you if you don't know about them. The Partnership on Employment and Accessible Technology, or PEAT, P-E-A-T, has a lot of resources on the future of work, a lot of great podcasts. So I recommend that. It's an ODEP-sponsored technical assistance resource. And then I also recommend Respectability, respectability.org, for entrepreneurship resources. That page did a pretty good job of making sure to connect you to all the other resources that are sort of scattered around, like Jan. And so I think you will find some really valuable resources there. All right, so we've got artificial intelligence, virtual reality, programming, data, and I really, like I said, I'm very excited about the multimedia. Students today, youth, are very involved in technology and they enjoy making videos. If we can help them get that interest up to industry standards, we can really use that to launch them into a career and even self-employment. Okay, next slide. Windmills. I'm going to talk about windmills, and then I'm going to save it for the end if we have time. Windmills is a program that was developed in California quite a few years back by people with disabilities for the Governor's Commission on People with Disabilities. The program helps people who go through it. It's a training exercise. There's about 12 to 13 modules. If we do get to one today, we're going to do a very shortened version of it, and of one module. So it really gives you an opportunity to reflect on how you think about disability and challenges you, even as a professional. When I went through the training, I realized that I had some deeply ingrained thoughts I didn't even realize I had. So it's very great program. What I would like to say is that if we don't get to it, myself and one of my colleagues, and we have one other person at our agency, have been trained. It is a bit expensive to get the certification and the training, and we are able to offer it free to any organization or any advocacy group, any group of people. We actually use it for teaching some HR students in the universities. And that's a great opportunity for us to educate future hiring managers. So if you think that you know a group or your own agency would be interested in that training and we don't get to it, please let me know. And I can share more about it with you, and as well as some of the modules and the objectives. I have a lot of information. All right, next slide. Career planning with a focus on talent. So it's true that students with disabilities enroll in post-secondary education less than their peers without disabilities, and they're also less likely to graduate. But the good news is there are some very definite actions that can be taken to improve their chances of enrolling and being successful. Studies have shown that high parental expectations of youth with disabilities increases their success. So as professionals in the field, it's really important that we make those connections with parents early so that we can help them have high expectations for their children. Another really helpful thing is work experiences. Young adults with prior work experience in one study were 35% more likely to secure employment. And earlier is better. Formally, you probably know that they can begin work experiences with VR pre-employment transition services at the age of 14. Prior to that, it's still important to expose them to work with family, friends, and after school and summer jobs. Peer support is another opportunity to help youth with disabilities to be successful. I think there's a real shortage, however, of peer mentors. Even though we have a peer mentor program, there's still a great need. Getting involved with advocacy groups may be one of the best ways to network and find peer mentors. Once a student is enrolled in post-secondary education, make sure to help them connect to the disability resource centers. I see so many young people in the transition to higher education not have the skills to advocate for themselves. So it's really important to help them learn to do that before they get to college, because once they do, the responsibility is theirs and parents can't intervene. Finally, make sure their accommodation needs are completely met. If you're advocating in K through 12 as a professional or a parent, it's great, but you really have to help students understand that they have a right to accommodation. And if they don't get what they need initially in higher education, they need to be encouraged to ask for it, especially in writing. Be prepared, though, to help them with documentation that they might need to provide evidence of their disability. All right, next slide. Career pathways. Career pathways have been around for a while now. The idea of career pathways is that they are designed to help students identify a career path early in their educational journey so that they can finish their degree faster, lower their educational goals, and be better prepared to transfer or enter the workforce. That was from Palm Beach State College's website. I think they have a nice career pathways website that tells you more about them and gives you the opportunity to explore them. The elements of a career pathway are alignment of education, training, and careers, which helps students lower their educational costs. Support services, meaning academic and student support services, especially academic counseling, and it does include disability support services. Career pathways emphasize in-demand skills, industry-recognized credentials, and quality. Career pathways guide students to in-demand jobs and prepare them with quality post-secondary credentials. Apprenticeships are also included in career pathway models. And occupational clusters are a feature of career pathways. Clusters are small groups of occupations within a career pathway. The groupings of occupations can help students think about careers strategically. All right, thank you. Career and technical education. Career and technical education is CTE for short, and it's really had a makeover for the 21st century. There are 17 career pathways that emphasize industry-recognized credentials, rapid credentialing, and stackable credentials. Rapid credentialing means students can obtain a credential in as little as 4 months. Stackable credentials are designed to go together so that there is a path leading from credential to an associate's degree to a bachelor's of applied science degree or transfer to a state university. And these are designed to be hands-on, affordable programs. Florida's website for career and technical education is gettherefl.com. Gettherefl.com. And I think I have that one on the last slide where I have some resources. On that website, you can see all 17 career pathways and the examples of occupations, which can be very helpful in each of those career pathways. Next slide. Post-secondary education can be really confusing because there are so many options. Florida has a robust and excellent post-secondary system. Students can obtain certificates, which really is, personally, I find the most confusing of categories because there are a lot of different kinds of certificates. It can be a certificate of completion. It can be a credit certificate, a non-credit certificate. It can be specific to an industry and absolutely needed for entry into the industry, or it can be something that can be used to stack credentials. So it's really important to have a resource that will help you with figuring out how to stack those certificates or what direction to take with obtaining one. And again, I have a resource for you at the end. Technical diplomas are issued by technical colleges, and they do provide a credential into a technical occupation, such as dental assistant, medical coder, and pharmacy technician. Degrees are what we're most familiar with. There are associates, bachelor's, master's, and doctorates. And I really want to give a shout out for the Bachelor of Applied Science degrees at Florida State Colleges. Florida has led the way with 4-year degrees offered by traditionally 2-year institutions. They are well-researched programs that help individuals gain immediate access to careers that are in high demand in their workforce area. And they're expected, they also are a respected credential by employers. All right, so that's the end of my commercial for Florida college system. And I wanna give another shout out for the university system. It's very outstanding, and there's a lot of collaboration between institutions in the public higher education system, which is a model for other states. There are also 30 private institutions, and you can learn all about certificates and the Florida college system, as well as the university system at floridashines.org. And that will be on our last resource slide, floridashines.org. And one last slide, or I'm sorry, one last point on this slide that I wanted to talk about are the inclusive post-secondary education programs. I think that these programs are really just beginning to be an incredible opportunity for students with the most significant disabilities. They are having they're showing outstanding results. They're really still in the infancy if you think about it. They haven't been around for decades. And I think in the years to come that they are going to increasingly help students really find careers that they have the skills and ability for and the interest for, and careers that help them sustain a living wage and achieve self-sufficiency. Just a little of the statistics in 2018 and 19, a 4-year follow-up report found that 78% of students who exited the post-secondary inclusive programs were completers. That compares really favorably to undergraduates in other degree-seeking institutions or programs. And 64% of students who completed a program in the prior 2 years had a paid job 1 year later, compared to an 18% national rate for adults with an intellectual and developmental disability. So think about that. 64% of students going through an IFSC program within 2 years had a paying job versus an 18% national rate for adults with intellectual or developmental disability who are currently not employed. Next slide are the resources that I have been talking about. For advocacy, I like the Family Cafe. This isn't to say that there aren't, this is a very short resource list, and it was kind of intentional because I think you can get overwhelmed with them. But for me, when I did a whole lot of research outside of our technical assistance centers, of course, because they are so rich and fabulous with information, they're obvious stops, but some of these might not be obvious stops in your resource toolkit. So I wanted to make sure if you weren't already connected to them or connecting families to them, that you knew about them. I'm guessing that probably everybody does know about Family Cafe. There's apprenticeship information at Apprentice Florida. And then the education resources I mentioned were Florida Shines, and then the Consortium on Inclusive Higher Education is the second one under education. And then you've got the CTE website, Get There Florida. And of course, Respectability for Entrepreneurship. You do have to kind of click through to get to the entrepreneurship link, but there's some pretty amazing resources there as well. Next slide. And next slide. We have arrived at questions. We could take a pause for questions, and if we still have time, I can, I forget how much time I have here, but were there any questions that were coming up in the chat as I was talking?
We have a couple of questions. Christy Schultz says, hello, Kathy. I'd love to learn more about the windmills training. I'm a youth transition coordinator at the Center for Independent Living Gulf Coast.
Awesome. All right. I think we're going to have plenty of time to look at it.
Yeah. I think that sentiment is shared by others. There's at least one thumbs up there. So people want to learn more about windmills training.
All right. Let me see. One of my concerns was sharing it. Like I have let me minimize here. Do I have the capability to share my screen, or is it better to?
You do.
Okay.
So I don't even think I need to unshare. You could just share and it'll stop my sharing.
Okay, great. Let me make sure I can get to, there's my matrix. And
while you're pulling that up, so Irene Soltis asks, will we get a copy of the files with all the info? Are you referring to the slides, Irene? Maybe just provide that clarification in the Q&A.
I'm happy to share the slides. Absolutely. We can figure out, I don't know if the FCIC wants to send them out, but if you want to do that for me, I'm happy to make them available. Okay, can you see my screen with a document?
Indeed, yes.
All right. So again, this is really an incredibly condensed version of what would happen in this exercise. This module is about thinking about disability and thinking about jobs. And the question before you is, if you look across the top column, you have 4 disabilities. And again, I've shortened it. If there would have been 6, there would have been 6 occupations. And there's a second part of this exercise, but let's just go ahead and look at what we have in front of us. 4 disabilities and 4 jobs. And I'm going to give you a minute to think about those. And then I think what we'll do is, by a show of hands, maybe we can, and I can get the moderator possibly to watch the hands since I'm sharing my screen. I'm not sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, you're going to get to vote 1 time. And so for the receptionist position, which disability is a most likely match? All right. And then I'm going to say, for the cable TV installer, which disability is the most likely match? And so you only get to vote 1 disability for each job. So that's kind of important. You can't pick out 1 disability and say, oh, they could do all of them. So it's a 1-for-1 match. Does that make sense?
Mm.
All right. So let's start. And again, if you could give a thumbs up or raise your hand, and then we can sort of watch it and see and come to a consensus on what we think. So for the receptionist position, which disability is a most likely match? And again, I'm not seeing the hands. I don't, the way I have my view, so I'm gonna let you tell me when you think you've got a consensus and what disability is receiving the most votes.
I see bipolar is one answer. Somebody else said all of them could match with the right accommodations.
Oh, you know what? What I need to do, I'm sorry, is I need to go through each one. And then when I say the disability, you'll vote for it. Okay. So again, let me start over. And I've got receptionist, and then I'm going to say legal blindness and give us a few seconds to see what the vote is. And then I'll say intellectual disability, and then I'll say bipolar, so on and so forth. All right, so I apologize. There are some tricky steps here doing it virtually. All right, so we have receptionist. If you want to vote for legal blindness as being the most likely match for receptionist, go ahead and give us a thumbs up or an applause right now.
I see 2 hands up, 3 hands up.
All right. If you want to vote for intellectual disability for receptionist, applause or thumbs up, hands up, either way. Just give us a nod.
Seeing none right now.
All right, bipolar disorder.
There's 1 hand.
And paraplegia.
3 hands. Oh, 2 hands, 3 hands. Looks like we're at 3 for that one.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the next job, cable TV installer. And if you, again, you're voting just for one disability, and if you think legal blindness is the most likely match for cable TV installer, please raise your hand or give us some applause. Silence, I think probably.
Two, I see two. Sorry, I lost the box for a second. There are two.
Oh, two votes. Okay, very good. Yeah, I know things do jump around on the screen a bit. All right, intellectual disability. Again, we're voting cable TV installer and intellectual disability. If you think that's a most likely match for that occupation, raise your hand or give us a thumbs up.
3 hands up. I also saw a yes pop up in the chat.
Okay, so we might be at 4.
3 or 4, yes. 4.
Okay. All right, and bipolar disorder for cable TV installer.
5 hands. 6, no 5. 5 hands.
Okay. And paraplegia for cable TV installer.
2 hands.
Okay. And we're going to go to the next occupation. We've got warehouse worker. So if you think that legal blindness would be the most likely match for warehouse worker, give it a vote.
4 hands.
And if you think intellectual disability would be a most likely match for warehouse worker, give it a vote.
4 hands there and a vote in the chat.
Okay.
And another vote in the chat.
Okay, great. Up to 6 there. Next, bipolar disorder for cable TV with cable TV installer.
3 hands.
All right, and paraplegia with warehouse worker.
3 hands, it looks like.
Okay, and then we have teacher. So legal blindness, is that a most likely match for teacher? If it is for you, give it a vote.
3 hands and another yes on the chat. So 4.
All right, and next, intellectual disability teacher.
3 hands, it looks like. 4 hands. 5. 5 hands.
Very good. And bipolar disorder.
3 hands.
And paraplegia.
Oh, 5 hands.
Okay. Now, I want to read you some information, and then we're going to have some discussion. First of all, Sue, who is legally blind in the right eye, has vision of 20/200 in that eye, and has a 20-degree field of vision in her left eye. Ray, who has an intellectual disability, has an IQ of 70, and he completed a carpentry apprenticeship program. Tom is bipolar. His condition is controlled with medication, and he only becomes nervous when working with a large group of people. And Wendy, who has paraplegia, has partial paralysis that impacts her lower body, and she has the ability to walk a few short steps at a time. So knowing that information, if you could, with a show of hands, how many of you with that new information would change your answers? Show of hands with the new information, how many of you would change your answers? We've got a yes, yes, yes. I think that was an enthusiastic, oh, I'm having a light bulb moment. Michael is a yes. Tell me, do we have the ability to, if anyone wants to be unmuted and share a response to my question, or do we have to do it through chat? Because what I'd like to know is, tell me how you made the match. How you made the match.
If somebody puts their hands up and would like to chat or put it in the chat or raise their hands, we can unblock your microphone. So
okay, great.
Let's see.
All right, so if you would like to volunteer to speak, please put your hand up.
And I think there's four people. The first one would be Gloria Daniel Swales.
Okay, wonderful. So what I'm asking is, Gloria, how did you make your match? What was your thinking in making your match? We can unmute Gloria. Great. All right. I see you're unmuted, Gloria.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
How did you make the match? How did you match the disability to the job? What was your thinking?
Well, I was thinking that just because someone has a bipolar disorder does not necessarily mean that they can't work in any setting. I think that mood does not really make a difference when you're working in a warehouse setting. So that is pretty much how I made my decision.
Okay, very good. When you heard me say what I shared about that person with bipolar disorder, that they are well controlled with medication, that they just don't like working in a big group, does that change your thoughts about working in a warehouse setting?
Gloria, I accidentally muted you again. Oh. Can you unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Does it change your mind now that you know our, I think, I forget his name. We have Tom with the bipolar condition, and he's well controlled with medication, and he just doesn't like working around a big crowd. So does that change how you would think about him working in a warehouse?
Well, in a warehouse, there are areas where you can kind of be secluded, even though, and you're kind of working independently in some areas. So I think that environment is could have a bunch of different areas where his mood may not affect the rest of the group, the rest of the employees.
Very good.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so not necessarily does it change the way I think about it.
All right, good. So that's definitely one factor that we need to be thinking about when we're helping place individuals into careers, is the environment that we're placing them in. And we can't assume that an environment is what we have a picture of it being. So just like Gloria said, it could be that some parts of the warehouse are really bustling, have a lot of activity, and other parts of a warehouse might be more secluded, might be more quiet. And so it would be a good fit for this individual that we're speaking about. All right, with somebody else, I'll read this. Casey says that the place that I would be able to create an environment to make them the most successful is how I made my decision. So we're definitely on to the environmental piece, helping someone to be successful. And I agree that it's kind of the right job at the right time, at the right place with the right support. So there's a whole lot that goes into our decision-making. Does one other, so I think you said there were other people who were willing to come off mic and share.
Yeah, there's a couple of other people I have.
Some people may have just left their hands up for voting.
Okay.
All right. So
but if you would like to share, keep your hand up. Oh, there we go.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So we lowered the hands. If somebody wants to talk, then they can raise their hands again.
Just want to make sure because it is an interactive exercise. So if there's anyone else who would like to share how you made the match.
People being so brave to.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, what this exercise does is in thinking about matching disability with a job, first of all, we are really forgetting the person. And it's not the disability. And a lot of you were sort of getting to that. And if you found yourself being uncomfortable with the exercise, that's even part of the exercise is, wait, there's something uncomfortable about this. And it's because that the exercise is intentionally set up in a way that directs you to think about disability and not the person.
Now we have we have a couple people who want to participate.
Great.
Christopher Florence through chat, and then Christy Schultz just raised her hand as well.
All right, so go ahead. Let me see if I see any. You said Christopher in the chat. I'm not seeing that, but okay, Christopher, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Christy.
I think
Christy.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, I just wanted to say I love this exercise because I myself have a disability as well, and I feel like a lot of the times people judged me based on like I'm a wheelchair user. So I think it's a lot of the time you have to see the person as you mentioned and not the disability. But also I think it's really important for even if you think like if you're an HR manager, if you think of like, oh, this person's not able to do that, you know, a certain job, give the person the opportunity to try it and then come up with their own accommodations that way for themselves because they know themselves better than everybody. So this is a really great exercise. So thank you for showing me. I really appreciate it. Christy,
thank you. I don't think I could add anything to that. That was so well said. And I appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
You're so right. When we do this exercise, especially with just a little bit larger group, for the receptionist position, the stereotype is, oh, the person with paraplegia because they're a wheelchair user and they're just going to sit all day anyway answering telephones. And that is not a good way to think about matching people's skills and abilities to a job.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah, so very much appreciate what you said. All right, was there someone else? All right, Christopher clarified. Nope, no thanks. He doesn't need to participate. Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks. Sorry, Christopher.
All right, and then I do want to ask, let's see. I'm looking at our list here. I had 5 for teacher for intellectual disability as a match. I would love to hear your feedback on that. If someone would be willing to share their experience and why they voted intellectual disability as most likely match for teacher. I need one of you 5 to be brave. Or you can drop it in the chat if you really want to. I had thought Maybe perhaps some of you, because most of you here are professionals, that you had experience placing these people with these different disabilities into jobs and had the success of placing someone with intellectual disability into a teaching position. That was actually what I was hoping to hear as a success story, maybe, because I do think that that could be one of those stereotypes, that someone with an intellectual disability could not be a teacher in any capacity. And so I hope to hear a success story for that category. So if not today, when we're finished here, I'm going to go looking for one so that I have it the next time that I present.
Oh, I see Olivia's raised her hand.
All right. Hi, Olivia.
I was going to talk about this a little bit in my presentation later, but I wasn't sure if you were going to be sticking around for the entire conference, so I wanted to bring it up now. It's
Please.
not a teaching position specifically, although I have helped with that with getting someone placed working in a preschool that had an intellectual disability, and we assisted him with accommodations with some of the class requirements in order to do that. So actually we did have somebody with an intellectual disability that now teaches preschool. But there was a really creative placement that a friend of mine did for someone that had an intellectual and developmental disability. And it was through the discovery process, which I'll touch on a little bit later too. Mm-hmm. And he had apparently this like really great deep voice, and when she initially met him, it's like he would be great as like a TV announcer or a radio host or something talking. And as she was kind of interviewing him and getting to know his hobbies and his interests, you know, she saw that he had bookcases lining his room with books, and he was really into like murder mysteries and horror and, you know, those kinds of things. And she ended up actually getting him a job placement where he was the announcer on like one of the ghost tours throughout areas where they take people through, you know, various graveyards and certain people that might be buried there and mm-hmm. houses that are supposedly haunted. And so he became a tour guide. So it's not teaching per se, but I mean, there is a historical knowledge there. So he's educating people on the area that they're touring and, you know, the stories and stuff surrounding it. So I thought that was like an incredible placement, so creative for someone that normally, you know, most people would have placed as a bagger at Publix, to kind of use his interests and those gifts and those skills and talents to do that amazing placement for him. And it was great. So. Yeah,
I love that story. Thank you for sharing it. I do plan to stick around because I know all of you have a lot of valuable information that, and you work in a different space within disability. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what all of you have to share. We just had a conference of our National Council for State Administrators for Vocational Rehabilitation, and they had a national performing arts program come on and share the presentation. Several individuals with disabilities, all working in that space of performing arts in jobs that we, you know, most people just wouldn't even think about exploring for customers. And one individual was a content editor for a streaming service. Another was an usher and stagehand for major Broadway productions. And another one was an event planner. And her story was so cute because she said, you know, she used a wheelchair and she really started to feel anxious about what she was going to do with her life. And she said, I've always been really bossy. And so she was able to turn her director bossy skills into a career as a very successful event planner. And she talked about breaking down barriers for accessibility because she would be on stages that weren't accessible. She has had some really big jobs or helping organize tours she did some name dropping, Justin Bieber and others that, she's been really breaking barriers in the arts and entertainment. And I'm excited because that is actually one of the targeted occupation industry codes for the RSA grant that is being offered to help states, VR agencies increase competitive integrated employment for individuals with the most significant disabilities, and targeting also individuals working in sheltered workshops to make sure to give them an opportunity for work. But there are a lot of great occupations that are come under the umbrella of that grant, and arts and entertainment is one of them. Other questions? One final question I have for you guys. Has anyone had some experience working with or customers working with the inclusive post-secondary education programs? What type of support do families and students need to better embrace those? Because personally, I just think they're such a great model, and I really would like to get behind, in my own role as in higher education, I'd like to get behind more students being able to access those. And Irene says WBLE in the chat. I'm not sure. Irene, could you just type a few more words? Did you want me to speak about WBLE a little bit more, or did you want employment and volunteer experience? I know that the inclusive programs have a work component, and connecting students to WBLE through those programs. Someone's involved with Project Search. Work-based learning in the high schools. A lot of work-based learning. I love work-based learning. I don't know if you have heard of the Building Readiness and Construction Program that was started in Brevard County, but I was one of the early founding team members of that very collaborative group between the school district, Home Builders Association, and our employment service provider to create summer work experiences in trades and construction. Most of the jobs, the young lady you saw at the beginning of my presentation, she was standing at a desk. She was actually involved in that program because some of the jobs were construction, but some of them were electrical, some of them were reception, some of them were filing, others were customer service, scheduling. We had one young lady who joined the sales team of a major home builder, and she loves her job. When she graduated high school, they went ahead and hired her on to their sales team. So there are really a wide variety of jobs fall under that WBLE program. And I'm going to read, Casey, did you want to get it? Okay, I'll pick it up. Casey says, I think starting in high schools, having the teachers and professionals encouraging the students to take on these opportunities. I agree. Your brother has autism, and all throughout grade school, he was told he would never graduate. And he now has a film degree from a well-known college in New York. So as much support as possible is definitely needed. Oh, that's what a great comment. I could not agree more. And that's why I'm here. I'm hoping that I can encourage you to support families. I'm hoping that we can encourage families to tap into this information. I personally would just love to be a coach and career advisor for every single student with a disability that's thinking about what they're going to do after high school, because there's so many options, and I would love to see them get connected to meaningful careers. All right, I think I got everyone's comment. Are there any others before I turn it back?
I have a quick one.
Sure.
So I was really excited to see that slide about the VR, virtual reality, use of that to experience different jobs and careers. And so I was in some projects before coming to Florida that were using video modeling to help develop job skills as well as other skills related to transition. And so I see maybe how virtual reality could help with that too, with developing skills and having some experience that was very, very real feeling, but in a very safe environment.
Yes, there's a program out there where you can have a virtual reality practice interview. And so I am very excited about the possibilities. I hope that these things continue to develop at lightning speed. The University of Florida Disabilities Office during the pandemic did things like GoPro cams on other students' heads for the lab work, and then students who really couldn't be on campus during the height of the pandemic were able to participate in labs via the GoPro cam. So I think that the opportunities are going to be endless for individuals to start experiencing things without the high cost too of the investment in an actual physical lab or equipment. It gives you the opportunity to begin that journey and to really learn. We know that even doctors in medicine and science are using virtual reality experiences to train and to really advance their fields.